Yeah.
정리 낭바 용조기 우티 시대 대배 챔버 겸근 이슈 노부 초네 걔네 체외 제레다 공예라 마잠버 만초 믹세 제게 고급 낭버 그바 소남 샤바네 상매 고잡 슈데 닝 탁반네 투지체체 슈바단 샵직 테린디가 차베 유데 소세 고잡남 모두 슈기다 템바 점된데기 전juk 지규 분도 남구 냠되기 토네 Laglen Shugu Ledger Ningduen Shik Yensi Shuguin. Hina Nganzo Tudu Pege Kodo Mituba Kasha Yobaten Sangme Kodo Debe Chedu Inge Peju Chobe Kadu Shuguin.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Your Holiness. My name is Sonam Sherpa. On behalf of the representatives of various Buddhist communities, I would like to express our deepest gratitude and profound appreciation for making time from a very busy schedule to meet with us. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Lobsang Nyandala, Your Holiness's representative to North America, for reaching out to our communities and making this special occasion possible. A meeting was held in February of this year at the Office of Tibet with Mr. Lobsang Nyandala and representatives of the communities that are present here today. The primary purpose of this meeting was to discuss how to fulfill our common aspirations of preserving and promoting our Buddhist culture in the United States. We all understand the enormity of the challenges. If the present trend continues, it is possible that the next generation growing up in the United States will not be able to enjoy the rich Buddhist culture which our forefathers strived hard to preserve for the benefit of the future generations. Your Holiness has many times expressed concerns about the consequences if the present generation should fail to shoulder the responsibility in preserving our rich religious traditions, and as you have advised us time and again to work together to preserve our cultural identity, which is deeply entwined with our Buddhist culture, the representatives have agreed to do the following. Number 1, Buddha Purnima ceremony. Since the majority of the Buddhist communities based in New York and New Jersey conduct prayers on Buddha Purnima or Sagadawa, we'll explore ways to jointly organize one big prayer ceremony as the first step towards bringing the different communities closer. Number 2, exchange invitations on special occasions. Various communities hold different functions and festivities. We will make greater effort to invite members from other communities to join in these activities, in particular to invite the executive board members of other organizations. Number 3, Tibetan language classes. Presently, there are about 40 non-Tibetan children enrolled in the Tibetan Saturday School, where other 160 or so are Tibetans. More efforts will be made within our communities to make them aware of this wonderful opportunity provided by this institution run by the Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey. Number 4, festival depicting Buddhist culture and traditions. In the near future, Your Holiness, we'll organize a festival in which all Buddhist communities can participate and showcase their culture and traditions. Number 5, exclusive Buddhist teachings for youth. To make our children more aware of our religion, we request Your Holiness to give a teaching in English to the youths, an introduction of Buddhist philosophy to our youths so it can have a life-changing impact by altering their perspective of their purpose in lives. We will also be requesting other teachers to give similar teachings to our youths. And now, Your Holiness, I will very briefly introduce the communities that are present here this morning. And while I do that, please rise as I say your name. Representing the Kalmyk community are the board members of Kalmyk Buddhist Cultural Center, Rashil Gempeling, and Nitsan Temple, Chumbeling. There are about 3,000 people in their community in New York metropolitan area.
Okay. Thank you.
Representing the Buddhist community is, representing the Buddhist community is Sonam Wongmo, who is a mother of 2 and 3 freelance writer. There are about 400 Buddhist people in our area. The Himalayan Buddhist communities from Nepal are represented here this morning. Starting with representing the Gyalsumdo community are the board members of Gyalsumdo Kiduk. About 110 of them now call New York home. Gyalsumdo. Representing Manang community are the board members of Manang Samaj USA. Their population in New York is about 450. Representing Mugum community are the board members of the U.S. Mugum Welfare Association. About 60 of them live in New York. Representing Mustang community, we have the board members of Mustang Kiduk. They number about 850 in New York. Next is Nubri. Representing Nubri community are the board members of Nubri Kiduk. About 80 of them now call New York home. Representing the community of Sherpas, we have the board members of Sherpa Kiduk United Sherpa Association. A little over 2,000 Sherpas now call New York home. Tamang community is represented here by the board members of the Tamang Society of America. There are over 350 of them in New York. Thakali community is represented by the board members of Thakali Samaj, New York. Their population in New York is about 50. Community of Tsum has also... Thakali. Community of Tsum has also 50 people in New York, but they don't yet have a formal organization. The Walung or Wolung community is represented by the board members of the Walung Kiduk. About 200 call New York home. The community of Yolmo people are represented here by the board members of Yolmo Society of America. About 500 of Yolmo people make New York home now. Last but not least, representing Tibetans in New York and New Jersey area are the executive board members of the Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey, the oldest and largest organization serving Tibetans in North America. Your Holiness, and now at this time, on behalf of all the communities present here this morning, we'd like to present to you with a plaque. This plaque has a tribute to Your Holiness. To present this plaque are Sonam Ongmo, the composer of the tribute to Your Holiness, and Dalai Lama, the designer of this plaque. While they make their way to you, I ask for your permission to read what it says.
This. Okay, sufficient.
No, with the plaque.
Oh, yeah.
And the plaque that they will be presenting says, to the Buddha of our times, the ray of light that dispels the darkness from our world, the beam of hope for peace and a better humanity, the warmth that soothes millions of hearts and minds. He who hails from the land of the snows, in every passing day of our time grows, in his magnanimity and his fame. We, members of the Buddhist communities, bow to you to express our heartfelt gratitude for your noble deeds, for bearing the torch of Buddhism and bringing light unto this world. Presented to His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama on May 5th, 2009, by names of all the communities follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What this way? What this way? You do it. Yeah, dear Buddhist brothers, sisters, and not only that, but also I think 1,000 years we have a very close connection, mainly because of geography and also because of the culture and Buddhism. So now, firstly, on a human level, it is quite natural way. We human beings are bound to face different problems, and including sort of natural or say the problems such as illness and old age and death. Then on that level, when we face these difficulties, I think best way to face this problem, this suffering, not by wealth, but by mental spirituality. Then, as far as spirituality is concerned, on this planet, last more than 1,000 years, we see different traditions develop. Each have a unique way of approach, and all have more or less same potential. Among these different traditions, Buddhism is not only one of the ancient, but also very rich. And from our viewpoint, the Buddhist way of approach this problem is more human way, more realistic way. So that's why now today, even among scientists, is showing interest and eagerness to learn or to find out some method regarding mental problem, or yes, mainly I think mental problem from Buddhist tradition, particularly Tibetan Buddhist tradition. That is Sanskrit tradition and also pure lineage of Nalanda tradition. So you are, as a human being, fortunately, through centuries, we are follower of Buddhism. Now, second level, now modern time, each country, each community, now, showing interest about one's own culture, because one's own unique cultural heritage is one of the important part of identity. So therefore, now people from Himalayan range, Buddhism is one of the part of our identity. Of course, in the Himalayan range, the Himalayan sort of area range, including Tibetan, there are also, you see, people who follow Christianity and Islam and Hindu. Then these, of course, entirely free to choose one's own faith. But then looks is not complete Tibetan or complete sort of with the local sort of what's the identity. So I know you see my Ladakhi friend, a Christian, so they dress Ladakhi and speak Ladakhi language, but then singing the Christian hymns, right? So sometimes, and of course, I appreciate, I admire, you see, their sort of practice, but the Ladakhi community, as a Buddhist community, so sometimes it's a little bit complicated. Yeah, like Mongolian, also Kalmykia, traditionally we are Buddhist. Then sometimes, you see, with new faith, you have to use mainly English language. Of course, those are the people who turned Christianity, they also have better opportunity to learn English. But basically, you see, it is better to keep one's own tradition. It's much safer. I often is telling one story. In 60s, one Tibetan family, the husband passed away, and the mother with young children remained, and very difficult situation. Then some Christian missionary come to help her and provide education, her children, and also some help to her financially. So then one day she came to see me in I think mid-60, and she told me about these stories, her sad stories. And she told me, now for this life, now she is follower of Jesus Christ. So she's in this life Christian, but next life Buddhist. So this is the indication of confusion. So I think neither true follower of Jesus Christ or Buddhist or Buddha, half, something is difficult. So it is because our whole cultural heritage is very much influenced with Buddhism. So as a member of that community, it is logically more fit to preserve one's own Buddhist tradition. Like here, America, or in Europe, and Australia, I always telling them, it is better to keep your own tradition, Judeo-Christian tradition. It's much safer. If you try to become Buddhist, then again, there's danger half like that. So better is to keep one's own tradition. So traditionally we are Buddhist. So on that respect, I think really worthwhile to keep one's own tradition as a part of your own identity. Clear? Then thirdly, now Tibetan Buddhist tradition, whether you call Buddhist tradition or Buddhist language, whatever you call, basically is a Tibetan. So now the situation of Tibet, a very, very crucial period. Very, very critical sort of period. So therefore, if from, I think, because of the worst scenario, if you look from worst scenario, then if present situation, present Chinese policy continue another 20, 30, 40 years. Of course, 50 years, more than 60 years now passed. Somehow, we preserved. Now, next 50 years, if the Chinese communists really carry forceful sort of policy, and Tibetan become insignificant minority in our own land, like Inner Mongolia. The Mongolian native population around 3 to 4 millions, whereas Chinese population now nearly 20 millions. So the Mongolian in their own land now become insignificant minority. So this tendency very possible come to Tibet, in Tibet also. In that case, Tibetan unique cultural heritage, then difficult to survive. And moreover, in the eyes of communist hardliners' eye, the Tibetan unique cultural heritage and spiritual, in their eye, is the source of threat of separation, Tibet from China. So about 15 years ago, one party secretary, his name Teng Guiyan, he actually mentioned at one party meeting the ultimate source of threat, Tibet being separate from mainland China, is Tibetan Buddhist faith. So they deliberately carry some certain policy to eliminate, Tibetan Buddhist cultural heritage or Tibetan Buddhist spirituality. So then, from the viewpoint of 6 billion human beings, Buddhism of Nalanda tradition is one of the treasure of 6 billion human beings. So now, when Tibet really, disappear with its unique cultural heritage, including Buddhist faith, then who will take care about this treasure of East, treasure of India? There's a Nalanda tradition of Buddhism. Now, it is your responsibility now. So we, Tibetan refugee community, about 150,000, very small. So the people from whole northern India, Himalayan range, I think over around maybe 2 millions, sharing the same tradition as I already mentioned. Therefore, now on your shoulder, there's some responsibility about the preservation of Tibetan Buddhist culture, Tibetan Buddhism. Now become heavier and heavier. So now the proper way of preservation of Buddhist tradition or Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Of course, construction temple or construction of statue, it is good, but that's not very important. Sometimes I'm telling you, see, people, big statue, huge statue, very good, but statue cannot speak. So the living Buddhist tradition must, develop within human being. Just a statue cannot carry, these sort of living tradition. Therefore, now knowledge is the crucial. 계절 인이 한다 들어고 와래. 계절 인이기 계절 인이가 한다 디송이래. 담배 담주 넘니디 롱도 떡배 더니도 덴지체와 마체와 주버체와 관아인 관에대 사제 롱도 담배니부지 진중 빼서 지야디 롬니자야다 주버냠니샤 뒤치부인 스타체래.
For example, the 4th century Indian Buddhist master Vasubandhu said in his Abhidhamma Kosha, a treasury of higher knowledge, where he says that if you look at the teachings of the Buddha, it consists of 2 aspects. One is the scriptural understanding of the Buddha's teachings, and the other one is the realization based upon that scriptural knowledge. And it is only by studying and upholding the scriptures and implementing that into one's own personal practice and gaining the realizations, that it's only by means of these 2 activities that the Buddha's teaching is upheld. And he uses the word kona only.
So now, study Buddha Dharma is the key thing. As the other day I mentioned, generally in the eyes of people, there are one popular sort of concept of Buddhism. That usually we do. Some prayer because of flags. And also, for example, Ladakhi, Kiki, so like that. I think you also, doing some sangsal. And then prayer wheel and rosary and recite Om Ahom Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hung or Om Mani Peme Hung, like that. So that is popular level of practice. That's not sufficient. I think traditionally our the society uneducated, illiteracy. According to that reality, now simple way of practice. So eventually become popular sort of way of practice. So the real method is rigorous study. Now for that, not necessarily become monks or nuns, anybody. Usually I call, now we Buddhist, irrespective of whether monk or nun, lay people, or man, female, everyone. You see, we must be Buddhist with fuller knowledge about Buddhism, with modern education. Now, that's the definition of 21st century Buddhist. So therefore, study is very, very important. Now, firstly, with Tibetan community. Also, you see, they're trying their best to promote, you see, the knowledge of Buddhism, particularly among the younger generation. So like in India, all the different sort of traditions, monastery, whether Nyingma monastery or Kagyu monastery, Giluk monastery, Saja monastery, or even Pembo monastery, or Shengshung, the Sonam monastery, all these facilities are common for anybody. So those in bigger Tibetan monastery, in the refugee community in India, I think at least 5,000-6,000 monk students, as well as some nuns, come from non-Tibetan area, like Ladakhi or members, and also some from Nepal, some from Bhutan also, like that. So all our facility, since we are same Buddhist community, so all facility must utilize for everyone. So now, Tibetan school in India. Also, I discussed with Indian Foreign Ministry. Now, all these available Tibetan residential schools now must utilize for those Buddhist communities' children for their education. So, in principle, Government of India agree. So now here in the United States, now for example, whatever Tibetan facility, of course you mentioned, you see this, some of the Sagadawa on this sort of occasion meeting, that's also good. And offering some song and some short prayer. But that's not sufficient. So as you mentioned, you see the study. But the way of study, not invite one lama and on a high throne, and the lama remain there, and just one sort of teaching. And while lama give teaching, some of the audience may feel sleep, may fall asleep. That's not right. So remain like class and discuss. That's the way, you see, to promote understanding or educate. So of course, some qualified lama occasionally used to come and give some blessing. That's okay. But our main effort is not on that way, but educational way. So just yesterday, and also you see, since this is a few years, I was mentioning Tibetan community, particularly youth. According to your free time, say around Christmas or New Year, like that, so more sort of available time, then if you arrange some, at least 1 week or 2 weeks, some sort of study group, then the teacher or I think teacher. We can send from India. And today Jimbo also is available. According to his sort of, I mean, he also quite busy, but you see, I think he also, you see, there, I mean, there's possibility to find the time. Then also the Tumdul and the Hadola, and some I know, you see, the sufficient knowledge about Buddhism, because they are on years rigorous study. Meantime, speak English very fluently. And also, see, like Tumdul, also have quite sufficient sort of knowledge about modern science. So that's helpful. The expense we can make. We can make, right? So no problem. Of course, when they reach here, then you have to take care. Should not make because of the starvation. So because of expense, langak.
Travel expenses.
Travel expenses that we can arrange, no problem. So whenever you see we have that kind of a program, then all Buddhist community, please join and utilize all our facility equally. No discrimination. We are same, as I mentioned earlier, same Buddhist brothers, sisters. And moreover, you have very important responsibility in future. So therefore, take for granted all our facility. And also, myself also, when you have some time, I have some sufficient time, then I can spend 1 to 3 days like that, some serious sort of teaching with text. You should choose the text. I will
explain now.
I want to offer you my sort of service. Same, like that. So then I very much sort of impressed you each community have already some organization, except one. So that's very good. These are matter of community, not individual family. Therefore, organization is very important. And the organization must be democratic principle. The completely sort of freedom to exchange different views. Then, the work can be more effective, like that. So otherwise, this is just an organization, and occasionally come, and one person used to speak, and then the rest of the person, because of that, showing little sort of respect, nothing convincing. Convincing that such an organization is meaningless, isn't it? Democratic principle. Come together and speak whatever you want to say, and what you want for further progress. And also very important, make clear all faults. That's very important. Every level, our work must be very honest, very clear, and transparent. That's very important. And then money matter. Without money, we can't carry this work. So money matter, sometimes it's sticky. So must be very clear, accountable.
Very accountable, yeah.
These are very important. So that's all. Thank you.